And we welcome you back inside to the Michael J. O'Brien Court at Pascack Hills High School. Once again, I'm Matthew Merlino. Thank you for joining us for our second of three games this evening. Now it's the junior varsity Broncos as they take on the junior varsity Mahwah Thunderbirds, looking to keep it as close but not replicate the same fate as the freshman team who lost by 4 to the Mahwah freshman team. In the middle, it'll be James Foley with Shamari for Mahwah here. Up in the air, and it goes back to the Broncos. Polsky gives it up to Connor Onikian, and now Tyler Lazarus over to Jake Polsky, back over to Lazarus, and now back over to Ethan Beebe. Polsky with it, now Lazarus again. He's going to dribble, gives it back over to Polsky. He gives it over to Lazarus again up top of the key. Now into Foley. He's going to put one up, in the first points of the game go to Pascack Hills. 2-0. The Broncos lead. Here's Ben Tomastovich. He's going to give it back to Lewis here. And we'll give it back to Tomastovich, and now Simpson. Tyson Van Pelt with it. Now over to Ben Tomastovich. He's looking for somebody. Gives it out to Van Pelt, and he's going to get a 3 there from the top of the key. That'll take a 1-point lead as Onikian gives it into Lazarus here, and the Broncos will reset after about a minute. Over to Polsky, back up to Lazarus, now back over to... Ooh, out of bounds there. It's tipped out by Mahwah, so it'll be an inbound here. Lazarus with it for the Broncos. Lazarus, tried to give it into Foley, but he lost it there. Now, big 3 from Himat Simpson. No good there, but it goes back Mahwah's way. Lewis with it. He's going to put up one for 3. It's no good. Brought down by Tomastovich. He's going to put up a 2 and gets it after a few bounces. That'll take a 3-point lead as now Lazarus takes things up for the Broncos. He'll give it over to, that was Beebe, and now Polsky back over to Beebe. 3 from the wing, it's no good. Rebounded by Stinson, and now up comes Tomastovich. Now Lewis gives it over to Tomastovich. And now he'll give it to that's Van Pelt with it. He's going to pick it up, drops it down once again. Some good defense there from Lazarus, but now it's Lewis with it. And in there, Beebe. Foul going to be called. It's going to be on Ethan Beebe, his first, and the first foul of the game. It is Lewis who's going to give it into Tomastovich. Now over to Lewis once again. Now Shamari, now over to Simpson, and now Tomastovich. He's going to give it on the handoff to Van Pelt. Now over to Shamari, who drives in, puts one up, no good, no foul, and Beebe gets the rebound. He's going to give it over to Lazarus. Now over to Polsky, back to Lazarus, now Onikian. Once again Lazarus, now over to Beebe in the corner, into Foley. Now back to Beebe in the corner for 3, no good. And no rebound there for the Broncos. Up comes Tomastovich, who gives it out to Lewis. And now over to Van Pelt. No good on the 3, but Lewis gets it back. Foul call here. It looks like it'll be on Polsky. And it will. So 1 foul for Polsky here for shooting foul, and Lewis at the line for 2 for the Thunderbirds. He's going to miss the first as Daniel Frusteri comes in for Ethan Beebe here. He'll make the second, so it's a 4-point lead for Mahwah now as Lazarus takes things up. He gives it over to Polsky. Now on the wing, now back to Lazarus, top of the key, over to Frusteri on the right wing this time. And now Lazarus, Polsky now in the corner and gets it. Big three there to cut the lead to just one. As Van Pelt getting it off the inbound, gave it right back to Lewis here. He gives it over to Tomastovich. And he'll spin around, gets another short range two there. So the lead back up to 3 points here as Lazarus gave it into Onikian. Foul call. It'll be on Lewis. First team foul for Mahwah and first foul for Lewis. Here's the inbound. It'll be Lazarus with it for the Broncos. Now Frusteri with it and Onikian. Lazarus over to Frusteri. I'll give it over to Lazarus and back to Frusteri. From the wing, a three. It's no good. Foley punches it out there. Gives it to Onikian. Back to Lazarus. Back to Frusteri. Now back to Lazarus. Now Lazarus with it. Frusteri for three. It is in and out, no good. Out of bounds. Off the tip, it will be a Bronco inbound here. As Lazarus will give it out to Frusteri up top of the key. He's going to give it over into Foley. Back out to Frusteri. Onikian, Frusteri fakes the three and gives it over to Polsky. Gives it cross court to Lazarus. Gives it over to Foley. That was a good dump off, no shot. Lazarus and a foul called here. It's going to be a foul on Van Pelt here, his first and the second team foul for the Thunderbirds here. And now Foley with a nice one there to cut the lead down to one once again. As now Lewis is going to take things up here. He gives it over to Simpson and now gives it over to Shamari. Now over to Lewis. To Simpson. Now Shamari with it once again. Tomastovich over to Simpson. Three is no good. As Lazarus over to Polsky. Now once again Lazarus and now Onikian. All the way cross court as Lazarus, now Frusteri gets it back to Lazarus now, just about 2 minutes to go in the first quarter here. It is Polsky for three, contested but good, and that takes the first lead of the night for the Broncos. It's Lewis with it. He's going to give it over to Tomastovich, now Shamari, and now Van Pelt. Over to Simpson, and Shamari and Lewis. Out to Tomastovich now. Looking to drive in, gives it out to Simpson for three. It's good from the corner, and that will take a 1 point lead. No, it was a long two. I apologize. So we are tied at 10 with about 1:30 to go. Onikian out to Frusteri here. Back over top of the key to Lazarus. Over to Polsky in the left corner. Gets one, and it's going to be fouled. How about that? Ooh. And we've got a guy on the ground. It's Hamat Simpson. Foul is going to be on Hamat Simpson, his first, and the third team foul. As we'll be right back. And we're back as Simpson comes off. It is Carmelo Ambrosio on for Tyler Lazarus here. The 1 is good from Jake Polsky, as on comes Alec Fisher for Jake Polsky, and Hills takes a 4-point lead. So Lewis now will come on up. He gives it over to Van Pelt, and now Shamari gives it back over to Van Pelt now. Minute to go in this first quarter. It's Abadi in. Chris Abadi is in. Now Shamari. Now Thomas Stovich, who's going to miss his layup. Frusteri gets the rebound. He gives it over to Fisher. Now in the corner to Foley. Fisher with it on the wing. Now Frusteri and Ambrosio. Now it is Frusteri, once again Ambrosio. Back with it, and now Frusteri with it. Now Fisher into Onikian, no good. Foley gets the rebound, and he's going to be fouled. Foul is on number 1, Shamari, his first, 4th team foul for the Thunderbirds here. It's 2 from the line for James Foley. He will miss the first one here. But he will make the second one, and the Broncos will take a 5-point lead here, as Lewis will take things up off the inbound from Ben Tomastovich. Ooh, foul call. No, it's going to go the other way. Foul's going to be on, I believe, Chris Abadi. That's the 5th team foul, Abadi's first, as now Polsky comes back in for Carmelo Ambrosio. 20.2 seconds on the clock. Fisher on the inbound to Jake Polsky here, and Fisher will get it back. So now Frusteri with it. He's going to give it over to Polsky. Now it's Fisher. Now back to Onikian with just 5 to shoot. Polsky from the corner. No good. Tip back. Onikian with a nice one to end the quarter. Another 2 for the Broncos, and that'll put them up 17-10 at the end of the quarter over the Mahwah Thunderbirds. So we'll be right back in about a minute here. It's the Broncos leading by 7. We'll be back. And we're back now to start the second quarter of play. It's the Broncos leading 17-10. Mahwah on the inbound here. Tyson Van Pelt with it. Looks like he'll inbound to Lewis here. And that is what he will do. So Lewis on the handoff to Van Pelt. Now back to Thomas Stovich with Frusteri pressing him hard. Now Van Pelt with it. He's going to give it over to Lewis in the corner now. But Van Pelt with a 3 from the wing. It's no good. Shamari with a good job to keep it in there. And now Thomas Stovich. He's got it. He'll give it over to Abadi. And now it's Lewis with it. He's going to give it over to Tomastovich. And now out to Abadi. Now over to Lewis. And now it's Van Peltier into Abadi. 2 is no good. Ambrosio with the rebound. He'll give it over to Frischer here. And now Frusteri. We'll give it over to Frischer once again. He's going to take a 3 from the wing. It's no good. Shamari brings it down for Mahwah. He'll give it over to Lewis. Now Abadi with it. He gives it over to Tomastovich. And now Abadi and now Shamari. That was Tomastovich out to Abadi. No good on the top of the key. 3. Frusteri with the rebound. Now it's Frischer. Going to give it over to John Stewart. Now Frischer. Now over to Frusteri. Back over to Ambrosio. And now it's Frischer once again. He's going to give it to Frusteri. Over to Frischer. Now Ambrosio again. Back over to Frischer. Back to Ambrosio now. He's going to drive in. Now he gives it out to Aaron Lee. And now Frischer with it from the top of the key. No good for 3. Who's going to get the rebound? It's Mahwah. Stewart in there trying to get it back. But a nice layup from Ben Tomastovich. That'll cut the lead down to 5. As now Frischer off the inbound from Frusteri.
Use the wing. Lower.
He'll give it to Frusteri again. Now back to Frischer. Now Stewart. From the corner, no good for 3. And now Lewis. He'll give it out to Tomastovich. 3 from the corner, no good. As Lee. Now Frischer. Now Stewart. Now back to Frischer. Gives it over to Ambrosio. Pulls up from the foul line. It's no good. Ooh, Frusteri had a hand on it there, but it's Lewis into Shamari, back out to Lewis. And now Tomastovich with it. He's going to give it to Van Peltz. Nice pass out to Abadi, but he can't get it to full. And Lee with the rebound here up to Ambrosio. Gives it over to Frischer. Now Ambrosio to Frischer into Lee. And a foul call here. Foul was on Abadi, I believe, his second. And 2 from the line for Aaron Lee. Gonna make the first, as now both Tyler Lazarus and Jake Polsky will come in for Carmelo Ambrosio and Alec Frischer. No good on the second. And it's going to be a 6-point lead for the Broncos here, as now Tomastovich gives it over to Shamari. Now over to Mackey. Matt Mackey is in. Oh, big block there from John Stewart. And now Lazarus gave it over to Polsky. Now gives it to Stewart. Polsky back to Stewart. From the corner for 3, no good. And it's going to be Mackey on the rebound. Foul's going to be on Aaron Lee here, his first and the second team foul for the Broncos. And it is Lewis who has it here. Now it is Van Pelt with Tomastovich, and now Lewis. Lewis over to Mackey. He gives it over to Tomastovich, who loses it, goes out, and will go the Broncos' way. It is Frusteri, now Lazarus. And into Lee. Good shot there. He's going to make the layup, and the Broncos will go up by 8. So Lewis now taking things up. Give it over to Shamari now. Now over to Mackey. Now it's Lewis with it. He's going to give it out to Thomas Stovich. Now Mackey, now Shamari. And now Van Pelt for three. It's no good. Airballed, in fact. As Polsky will give it over to Lazarus. Now it's Polsky. Now Lee. No good. And a timeout here as Mackey gets the rebound. Timeout for Mahwah. It's going to be a 30-second timeout. We'll be back in just a moment. And we're back to it here. It's an inbound from Mahwah. Lewis has it now. Gives it over to Mackey. Now back to Lewis. Now back to Mackey. Now Lewis with it once again. Over to Mackey once again. He's going to give it into Shamari. Right back out to Mackey. Three from the wing. In and out, no good. Polsky gets the rebound, wrestles it away, and now takes it up very quickly. Lazarus tried to give it over to Lazarus, but it was taken away. That was by Tyson Van Pelt there. He gives it back to Lewis. And now back over to Van Pelt. Now it's Mackey over to Lewis. He's going to put one up from the foul line. It's no good. And now up to Frusteri. He's got a nice contested layup there from Daniel Frusteri. That'll take a 10-point lead. And it is Lewis who gives it over to Shamari now. Into Thomas Stovich, barely gets it. Now Lewis gives it over to Mackey for three from almost the top of the key, and he gets it. Lazarus on the inbound to Polsky. They cut the lead from 10 to 7. And now Lazarus still gets it. Now Frusteri with it. He's going to give it cross court to Polsky. Now back to Lazarus, top of the key. Back over to Polsky on the right wing. Now Lazarus into Lee. Out, but Lazarus is there to get it. Gives it back into Lee. Out to Frusteri from the left wing. A three ball, no good. Foul call here. Foul's going to be on John Stewart, his first, as Connor Onikian comes in for Jake Polsky. 22-15 is the score here. Minute 30 to go in the first half of this one, as it is Van Pelt who gives it back to Lewis off of the inbound. It's a 7-point lead for the Broncos. Now Shamari with it. Now Thomas Stovich. He's going to give it back to Shamari, who gives it back to Mackey. And now Thomas Stovich with it again. Driving in, covered by Frusteri, tried to spin around, now gives it out. Tried to give it out to Van Pelt. Tipped off Lazarus, but it stays with Mahwah. And now Thomas Stovich on the inbound, gives it back to Lewis. Lewis over to Mackey, now out to Van Pelt, spins around, gives it over to Mackey for three, and gets it from the left corner. So Lazarus, he's going to drive up, gives it over to Onikian, now into Frusteri on the wing. Now back to Lee, and now Stewart from the wing, no good. 30 to go, as it's Van Pelt with it. Broncos lead by 4 now, as Thomas Stovich, he's going to try and drive in. Puts it back to Van Pelt, and now Lewis gonna draw it down to 10 seconds and then go in. Tomastovic, 10 seconds to go, driving in, gives it over to Lewis, who gets a nice layup there. 4, 3, 2 to end the half. Lazarus puts one up, no good. So, at the end of the first half, Broncos lead by 2, scores 22-20. We'll be right back in about 10 or so minutes, maybe about 7. For now, you've been watching PH Athletics, your home for Pascack Hill Sports. And we're ready to get back to some action here. 16 more minutes of regulation basketball to play. At the moment, the Broncos lead the Mahwah Thunderbirds 22-20. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matthew Merlino. You're watching PH Athletics, your home for Pascack Hills Sports. It'll be a Bronco inbound here. Ethan Beebe on the inbound to Tyler Lazarus, and that's how we will begin the second half. Foley with it off the pass. He gives it back to Lazarus. Now gives it over to Polsky. Polsky into Foley. Now back out to Polsky. Now to Lazarus. He's going to give it over to Beebe. Now in the corner to Onikian for three. Gets it. How about that? Great way to start off the second half there. The Broncos take a 5-point lead now, as Dixon brings things up. Now it's Damian Rasmussen with it. He's going to give it out to Matt Mackey, who puts up a three. Shamari with the rebound, but it goes the other way as Polsky with a big steal for the Broncos. Got a minute through as Polsky, another three. It's no good. And Dickerson gets it off the rebound. Big three. It's no good there. It goes out, and it goes the Broncos' way.
Hughes.
So it'll be Polsky on the inbound to Tyler Lazarus, and he'll get it right back. Now over to Lazarus, back over to Polsky. Now it's Beebe from the corner. Another three. How about that? 8-point lead for the Broncos now, as Dickerson will bring things up for the Thunderbirds. He was in our freshman game earlier. He's the point guard there. He's become the point guard here. Rasmussen gets it. Now Mackey, and now Dickerson once again. He's going to give it over to Rasmussen. And now Mackey back over to Dickerson. Going to give it over to Rasmussen. Ooh. And it's going to be Polsky who gets it back for the Broncos. Gives it over to Beebe. Beebe puts one up. And taken back by Mahwah. Maybe no. Jump ball. Subbing in, it's Hamat Simpson for Damian Rasmussen here. That's the only substitution, and it's for Mahwah. So Matt Mackey will inbound to Elijah Dickerson with just about 2 minutes burned here in the third quarter. And now it is Abadi who will give it over to Dickerson. Foul call here, or whistle here. It's going to be on Matt Mackey of the Thunderbirds, his first foul. And it'll go the Broncos' way here. Just over 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. It will be Tyler Lazarus with it. Jake Polsky will give it back to Lazarus. And here we go. Now over to Foley. Fakes and gives it back over to Lazarus. With a screen from Stewart. Now Foley puts one up. Big block, gets it back, puts it up again. Onikian tips it. Beebe gets it. And now Onikian over to Lazarus into Foley. And now Foley gets it back off the pass. No shot. Foul is going to be on Elijah Dickerson, his first of the game. Inbound here, Lazarus going to be looking for somebody. Going to be covered by Simpson. This gives it to Foley, puts one up, and another two. So the Broncos will take a 10-point lead here. Just about 5 minutes, 30 to go. Dickerson takes things up with Polsky on him. Puts one up, but a big block from Jake Polsky there. Goes out of bounds. Ooh, another tip from Lazarus this time. Polsky tried to keep it in, gave it back to Mackey, and he missed a long two. Now Lazarus with it, gives it up to Beebe. Now tried to give it into Foley. He let it go, and Mackey's got it now. As Dickerson will give it over to Shamari. And now Dickerson missed it, and Foley got the rebound, gave it to Lazarus, and he'll bring things up. Lazarus over to Beebe. Now Lazarus again. Just about 4.5 minutes. Tried to give it into Foley, couldn't quite haul it in. As now Frusteri will come in for Ethan Beebe. Here is Dickerson, who will bring it up for Mahwah. He's going to give it over to Mackey. Now Mackey over to Abadi now.
Good, Laz. Play, Laz.
Now Dickerson over to Simpson. He's going to put one up. And good. So it'll be now an 8-point lead for the Broncos. Here's Lazarus bringing things up. Just about halfway through this third quarter. It is Polsky over to Lazarus. Now back over cross court to Polsky. He's going to give it back top of the key to Onikian. Polsky gets it back. Now Frusteri in the corner, trying to drive in down the baseline. Gives it into Foley, who loses it. And now back to Dickerson. Now Shamari puts one up. No good. But Mackey, Onikian brings it down. Nice pass out to Lazarus there. 3 minutes 30 on the clock. Lazarus over to Frusteri. Cross court to Polsky, Onikian. Now Frusteri from the wing, it's good. And that'll take an 11-point lead over Mahwah. Now Dickerson with it. Going to give it over to Shamari now. Gives it out to Abadi, who makes a corner three there to cut the lead down to now 8 once again. Ooh, tipped back out to Lazarus. He gets it back after passing to Frusteri. Onikian out to Polsky. Foul call here. It's going to be a foul on Hamat Simpson, his second. The third team foul of the half for the Thunderbirds, none so far for the Broncos. Inbound here for Tyler Lazarus. Lazarus over to Polsky. 3-ball, it's good. And an 11-point lead once again. Dickerson brings it up, now over to Shamari. Shamari's still with it, but Foley's there trying to get it. And now puts one up. And one for Shamari here. Two minutes 21 to go. As a chance to make it an 8-point game here. Alec Frischer, Carmelo Ambrosio coming in for Jake Polsky, Tyler Lazarus, and Damian Rasmussen comes in for Mahwah. Shamari with the miss on the free throw. Frusteri gets it back, and now Onikian. It's a 9-point lead for the Broncos. And now Ambrosio gives it over to Frusteri. And now Ambrosio again. Frusteri over to Foley now. He's going to give it over to Ambrosio. Now it's Frischer. He gives it all the way out to Frusteri. Under 2 minutes to go. Frusteri into Onikian, back out. Now back over to Onikian on the wing. Into Foley, back out in the corner now Onikian. And now over to Frusteri, back to Onikian once again. He gives it to Ambrosio. Now back to Frusteri here. He gives it to Foley. Foley spins around, puts one up, and in! How about that? Nice shot for James Foley, brings it back to an 11-point lead. There's a minute 20 to go in the third. Here is Elijah Dickerson bringing things up. Now Rasmussen. Ooh, tried to give it into Shamari. And it goes to the Broncos. It'll be Frischer on the inbound, it looks like, to Ambrosio here. Minute 15 to go in the third quarter. The Broncos lead by 11. Rasmussen coming back in. Back on the court, I believe, is Chris Abadi. Here's Ambrosio. He's going to give it over to Frusteri. Frusteri over to Frischer. Back over to Frusteri. Going to give it back to Frischer. Back to Frusteri now. Drives in, gives it out to Onikian. Onikian back over to Frischer, into Foley. He gives it out to Ambrosio, now over to, tried to give it over to Onikian. It looked like Mahwah lost it. It goes out, and it goes the Broncos' way again. 44.5 on the clock in the third. And Onikian with 40 seconds to go. Now Ambrosio with it. Looks like they'll try and hold for the last shot. Here's Frusteri. Into Foley. Back out to Frusteri. Now back to Ambrosio and Onikian now. Back to Ambrosio. 25 seconds to go. Frusteri into Foley. Now out to Frischer. Back to Frusteri. Back out to Frischer. He gives it to Ambrosio now. He gives it out in the corner to Frusteri with 10 seconds to go. Now back to Ambrosio. Oh, loses it. Goes out of bounds. It'll be the Broncos with it. Ambrosio on the inbound. 6.5 on the clock here to end the third quarter. He's going to give it to Frusteri. Some good moves there. Now gives it over to Onikian. Onikian, 2 men on him, puts one up, and gets it! How about that from Connor Onikian? In double coverage to end the third quarter. That makes it a 41-27 game. We'll be back in just a minute here with 8 more minutes to go in regulation time. And we're ready to get back to it. 8 minutes to go in regulation time here. It's the Broncos with a big 14-point lead over the Mahwah Thunderbirds. Tyler Lazarus will be on the inbound here to Daniel Frusteri. On the court for the Broncos is Lazarus, Frusteri, Jake Polsky, Aaron Lee, and John Stewart. It is Frusteri who gives it over to Lazarus. Now back to Frusteri, who dribbles a little bit, puts one up from the wing, no good, and brought down by Mahwah. It is Van Pelt with it now for Mahwah. He's going to give it over to Shamari. And now it is Dickerson who gives it back over to Shamari, puts one up, no good, but a foul. 2 shots coming. Foul's going to be on Frusteri, his first, and the first foul of the half for the Broncos, I believe. Maybe the second. Not sure, but 2 shots from the line for Shamari. He misses the first. And he misses the second, so it stays a 14-point lead, and Stewart gets the rebound. Lazarus takes it up. Now over to Frusteri, now back over to Lazarus. Now Frusteri, he gives it back to Lazarus up top. And Frusteri gives it over to Stewart, into Lee. Gives it out to Polsky for 3 from the corner, no good. Dickerson takes it up. He gives it over to Van Pelt, and now a body, and now Shamari with it. He's covered by Stewart, now gives it over to Van Pelt. And Dickerson for three, no good, as Lazarus gets the rebound. He'll take it up, gives it to Lee. Now back to Lazarus, back over to Stewart. Into Lee now, he's going to spin around, puts one up, and good. So that'll make it a 16-point lead. As a body gives it into Tyson Van Pelt here. And Shamari with it. Now Tyson Van Pelt. He's going to go for three. It's no good. Frusteri on the rebound. Gives it to Polsky, who gives it to Lazarus. Just about 2 minutes burned here in the fourth. Frusteri for three and gets it from the left wing there. So that makes it now a 19-point lead for the Broncos over the Thunderbirds. As Van Pelt gives it over to Shamari. He gives it to a body, and now it is Van Pelt here. He's going to tried to give it to Mackey, but Frusteri tipped it out. It goes on the floor. Whistle here. Sub in comes Nadell for Polsky. Timeout for the Broncos. For Ramsey. Mahwah. It's a 30-second timeout. We'll be right back. And we're back now with 5 minutes 43 to go in this one. Van Pelt will get it off the inbound from a body here. And Van Pelt gets it back. Now Shamari with it. He's going to give it over to a body. Now it is Dickerson with it. He's going to drive in. Puts one up. It's no good. And Lazarus with it now. Ooh, Dickerson with a nice interception there. Pass intended for Nadell. And now Rasmussen. And it is Lazarus. Now Nadell, back to Lazarus. Nadell, for three. He missed it. 5 minutes to go. Shamari, now Rasmussen. Foul call here, as now Fleckner and Wright will come in for Daniel Frusteri and Aaron Lee. So it'll be Van Pelt off the inbound, sorry. They'll give it over to Dickerson now. He's going to drive in. Oh, big block there from Stewart. Goes out of bounds, and it'll stay with Mahwah. So here's a body on the inbound, it looks like. And he'll give it to Rasmussen. Now it's Van Pelt. And now Rasmussen, nice pass to Shamari. No good on the layup, however. And Stewart gets it. He's going to give it over to Lazarus. 4 minutes 25 to go. Lazarus gives it over to Nadell. Ooh, big tip. Goes out. Sub in, it's Matt Mackey for Damian Rasmussen here. Inbound, it will be Tyler Lazarus for the Broncos on the inbound. They'll look for any of his four teammates. As now it is Nadell with it. He's going to give it over to Lazarus and into Wright, who's going to be called for a travel. 4 minutes 10 to go. It is a 19-point lead for the Broncos as Van Pelt is going to put a layup up. No, fakes out at the last minute to go to Mackey, who misses a three. Then it is Fleckner with the rebound, and now Lazarus takes things up. And now it's Nadell. Ooh, foul here. And it'll be on Mackey, his second. Looks like it'll be 2 shots from the line for Nadell. So Michael Weichert and Stephen Huang are on. As now Fleckner gives it to Nadell. Nadell over to Fleckner, who gives it back over to Nadell. Now into Wright. Back over to Nadell. 3 minutes 20 to go. Into Wright. Now out to Weichert. Here's Nadell, gonna give it over to Fleckner, and now right in the middle, puts one up, no good, out of bounds, and it goes the Broncos' way. So it is Nadell into Huang. Ooh, tipped. Ooh, another big block there, both by Tyson Van Pelt. And now a double dribble here. In comes Rasmussen for, I believe, Van Pelt, and yes it is. Here is a body, and we'll give it into Rasmussen. So under 3 minutes to go. It's a 19-point lead still for the Broncos. Mackey for 3, it's no good. And Dickerson gives it over to Rasmussen. No good. Tipped. Rebound. Goes out of bounds. And it'll be the Broncos with it. Fleckner gives it into Nadell. And Nadell over to Fleckner now. Gives it over to Weichert.
Hey, Nadell. Hey, good bucket.
And Nadell.
Hey, get in there, Pete. Tuck your shirt.
A Shamari. And a big 3 there from Mackey. It's no good. Under 2 minutes to go. It is Weichert, who gives it up to Fleckner.
Hey, Fleck!
A nice shot from Fleckner there. Timeout, a 30-second timeout. Or no, just substitutions it looks like. As Peter Park comes on for Nadell. All right, a lot of personnel changes for the Broncos in these past few moments. It is Rasmussen bringing it up for Mahwah, however. And now Mackey as tried to give it up to Weichert. No good. So a body here, minute 30, and counting to go. As Rasmussen with Shamari now, he's going to drive in, loses it, Goes out of bounds, and it will go to the Broncos here. So it'll be Kornakovsky into Park. Park, who gives it over to Wishart. And now back to Park from Huang.
Hey, get a bucket, Steve.
Gets it back. Ooh, gives it out to Wright now. Ooh, steps over. Good layup, no good. Now Park in the corner. Now Wright. Mid-range 2, and he gets it. It's a 25-point lead for the Broncos here with just under 40 seconds to go. As Rasmussen over to Shamari, now 30 to go. With Rasmussen now. A body, no good. Got back by Mahwah, though. It was in the hands of Wishart. No good on the 3 from a body once again. And now Park, with 15 to go, looks like he'll dribble this one out. All the way over to Kornakovsky. Tried to give it to Lang, but it doesn't matter. They'll just dribble it out from here. And at the end, it is the Broncos taking the win over Mahwah. 52-27 is the final score. And so the Broncos go to 1-1 tonight. We'll see if they can get a win over the Mahwah varsity team, which reminds me to remind you that coming up in, I believe, just about 40 minutes, we'll have our main events of the evening tonight. The Pascack Hills varsity Broncos against the Mahwah varsity Thunderbirds. But for now, this is Matthew Merlino saying thank you for watching. You've been watching PH Athletics, your home for Pascack Hills sports, and until we meet again.